Is it goodbye forever for the famous CGC forums?
Oh man, Iron Fist is hot again, and is a video game to blame?
And the return of the Wacky Races. Yes, you asked for it, whether you
Yes.
wanted it or not. It's a new episode of Bronze and Modern Gods. Richard, Wacky Races, Hanna-Barbera, Saturday morning.
Love the Wacky Races. Is one of my favorite cartoons. I remember buying cereal, and they had toy cars in the boxes of cereal. I would basically toss the box of cereal behind me as I pulled out the toy car, and I would build the little toy cars. It was so awesome.
Of course. You had a brother, so you had to fight over the toy. I
Oh,
had 6 brothers and sisters. So imagine no, 7 brothers and sisters. I forgot one. Sorry. I had 7 of 8 at one point. Some of them were step brothers and sisters or stepsisters. But enough of that. We've got all our regular stuff, underrated books of the week, viewer mail, where Wacky Races will come up yet again, Richard. We've got our hot book of the week. That's what we have right here, Richard. Explain it to me like I'm
yeah, Marvel premiere number 15, first appearance of Iron Fist. 140% increase in copies sold this week. And the thought behind this being hot, as you will see some other titles that have been cold recently heat up as well, is there's a brand new hero shooter video game out called Marvel Rivals, which if you're familiar with hero shooters, you play a character, you're on a team with other people, and you fight against another team. And these are all Marvel superheroes and supervillains. They're the Marvel license was used for this game, so you can fight as Iron Man or Spider Man or Venom. There's a whole roster of over 20 different heroes and villains you can fight with, including Iron Fist. And each has their own powers and abilities, and they mirror the powers that they have in the comic books. It's a really cool concept. I'm wondering why it's taken so long for it to really to someone to really capitalize on it. It's very similar to another game that's out there called Overwatch. If you're familiar with that Blizzard game, it's the same concept. You've got heroes and villains, and they fight each other. Um, but yeah, the game launched very smoothly this last week. It was a very easy transition to being live. And I think a lot of a lot of the kids who aren't familiar with some of these characters see those characters in the game, and they're kind of gravitating towards the comics.
Yeah, but it's not the trailer that features Iron Fist for Marvel Rivals. It's not Daniel Rand, which
No,
is this Iron Fist right here on the screen with you. Doesn't matter. Is it just the fact that it's the first appearance of an Iron Fist?
it is the first appearance of an Iron Fist. Yeah, yeah. This. I hate to say it, but the this is not the MCU brought to a video game.
Right.
So the characters that you may be familiar with the you know actors portraying certain characters, they're not a part of this video game. Um, and so there is a little bit of differences between what some of these kids may know from the MCU, um, and what the video game is. But I think it's an easy step to see. Hey, look, here's Cloak and Dagger in this video game. Who are they? They look really interesting. I want to find out more about them, and then that leads you to going to finding the comics.
Well, if you want to spend money on a CGC 9.8 of this book, the last sale was in November this year for $3,480. That is slightly actually down from the 90-day average for a 9.8, which is $3,896. So I don't know if these new sales since the trailer are being reflected yet in GPA.
If you want to spend money, it sounds like you're automatically dismissing this book as a purchase.
Well, we've seen, this book, the Netflix series drove it to like crazy highs. At one point, like in 2022, it was an $8,000 book, and it's just been going down. It's not scarce whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, these things, but I already used my thickest flies in Florida last week. What can I use this week? For how many there are. Well, there's just a lot of them. It sort of tough with the black cover at the top and halfway down the spine, but I can't tell you how many copies of this book are out there. Warehouse finds and etc.
Yeah.
It's not a tough book.
No, I think 8,000 was just either someone affecting the market or just overhyped.
No, we were all drunk and high. Are you kidding? Eternals #1 was selling for how much?
Yeah, the halcyon days of 2020.
Nova #1 was selling for how much?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, crazy. Caveat emptor is what I say. Is that buyer beware? Yes, in Latin.
Yes.
Sure. Speaking of our friends at CGC, we should do a new graphic, the CGC horrible news report with music, and have that be a regular feature. They just are shooting themselves in the foot continually. First, they laid off CGC Mike, who was the moderator of the CGC forums for years.
Mhm.
And, they kind of came into the forums and said, it's life is normal. It's going to be more comic book focused. We're going to, slightly drop the hammer on things that are non-comic book related. And then they've just been going on a mercenary thread killing spree the last week and a half, which part of it is really tacky. And by that, I mean, there was a thread for CGC Mike to raise money since he got laid off, deleted.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, guys. And the thread about Banana Gate and Benz, deleted. Didn't happen. Nope. I'm done. I was done with submitting. Now I don't. The forums are not even worth visiting anymore. Have you gone over there in the last week and a half?
I have not. I understand what they're doing. They are looking at it as an extension of their marketing department, and they are protecting their brand. So that means stomping on threads that have a negative impact and things that distract from CGC's success. Eh, It's not unusual for house organs to be a part of a marketing arm. And I think it's been long overdue. The forums have existed under CGC's auspices for a long, long time, and they've been lax in terms of monitoring it. I think the community needs to come up with a neutral ground, either Reddit or some other forum that they can continue to talk without having the possibility of being censored, like they're going to be censored now on the CGC forums.
I agree with you to a point. It is a business. They need to make sure that the best face is put forward the business, but they built that business on that community
Mhm.
that they created on the CGC forums, flat out.
Yeah.
So you don't want to build it anymore. I'd rather. It would hurt less if they just completely zapped the forums. 100% gone. Because think of all the good those forums have done.
Yeah.
They've exposed Hero Restoration. They've exposed Banana Gate. They exposed Swippity Swappity Gate. That's
Mhm.
why they want to get rid of it. I get it. But now, where are people going to get that information in a centralized place?
And not only that, they've been the primary source for people who collect golden age books or rare books that there is no other real source of information on. I mean, they've been that kind of critical
Mhm.
source, and I think the community, like I said, community needs to recognize that this is now no longer the CGC from 10 years ago. This is a new business. It's been purchased by a new company. They have an agenda that, yes, yeah, I agree. I agree. But this is the reality that we have to face now for the forums. It is no longer, I want to say Wild West because it's always been moderated, but
Yeah.
it's no longer a free community in terms of you can say anything that you want to say. If you say something that's against CGC, I'm pretty much guarantee you it's going to be moderated or removed. It's a
Shall we?
sad thing.
Shall we hop over to the CBCS forums? They're there. They're there. I
Yeah,
mean,
I bet they're not as open as the CGC forums. I think the CGC forums are an anachronism, something that's set up before they really became a hardcore company.
there were rules in the CGC forums. You could not mention CBCS or show a picture of a CBCS slab. I mean, there was good moderation. CGC Mike did a great job.
We did.
It was just, when things like Banana Gate came up, it was leave it up. We will investigate and report back to you. That's actually something really powerful for a
Yep.
company to have. A company that ignores feedback from customers, a company that doesn't address problems head on, that's the company that fails, period.
I totally agree with you. But I also understand how big companies work, and they don't think with the same kind of mindset that you and I think.
Imagine if there was a McDonald's forum.
The shake machine is broke again.
Yeah, the thread, broken ice cream machine by area, post yours. I could just see it. Yeah, I understand it is a business 100%, but there's a fine, just striking 25-year-old, or not 25, 20-year-old threads,
Yeah.
just deleting them outright. It seems like it's gone over to the spiteful era now, as opposed to let's do what's good for the business. What do you guys think? There's a comment section below. We moderate it, so be careful. We might delete you because we're huge hypocrites. Let's switch to the show and tell screen. What do you say?
John, where are you?
I've given up on fingers. I know you've been good the last couple of weeks, but I have completely given up on magic fingers.
Okay, no magic fingers.
All
Fine.
right, I'm going to shake it up today. Ready?
Okay.
You go first. Ah!
Oh, all right. I picked this book because we've had long conversations about this gentleman. This is New Mutants, number 21.
Can't get
with
enough.
our buddy Bill Sienkiewicz there on the cover. This is the copy I bought back in 1984. It's been sitting in my collection since then. You can see there's spine wear on it because I read it. I read this book. The artwork, if you look at here's the interior. It's just not me. Some
How
parts
come
of
you
it
don't
look.
like that?
Some of it looks traced. Some of it's very. I was trying to find. He loves to encase characters in these emotion bubbles. You see that. You
Yeah.
see Cannonball there on the ground. I went through it and I looked at it and said, okay, so maybe I am overcritical of his work. There's Warlock. Now, you got to say, I can't think of another artist who would draw a character that looks like that.
Yeah, and other artists, like I know Rob Liefeld's attempted to draw a Warlock, and it just never looks the same. Brett
It never
Blevins came the closest, I think.
But yeah, his cover's nice. I like the cover.
Mhm.
You know, you've got the New Mutant team there. That's great. His interior work varies dramatically. Some panels I think are good. Some panels are not as good as other panels. Let's just say I don't appreciate him. I appreciate him as his talent. I just don't appreciate all of the work that he does. So
Could you imagine that issue? By the way, is about a slumber party
right.
for the students at Xavier's gifted school for gifted youngsters. Could you imagine Tom Brevoort and company doing an issue of X-Men around a slumber party in 2025?
God, no.
Isn't that sad that you
Yeah,
can't?
you can't no, you
It
can't.
was these character moments that made that franchise, and now it's just survival of mutants. Can we talk about the characters a bit?
You bring up a good point. I think the whole X-Men Under Siege mentality about mutants versus humans has really been whipped to death. But they put themselves in a corner, where there is this conflict between humans and mutants. I do miss the days when you could just go to the ice cream shop, or you could have a casual story that didn't involve survival.
Imagine a story, Wolverine and I don't know what's a new character. Is it all of a sudden Jubilee? Yeah, she's like 35 years old, John. But they encounter Electro walking in Manhattan. I would eat that up because I read these. I tried the new X-Men titles, guys. I like there is some variety. I can't keep track of which title is which, so I call them by their writers' names. The Gail Simone title I liked. I like the fact, I think that's the one that takes place in Chicago. I like the different areas. I cannot relate to the X-Men title that takes place in Alaska with with Cyclops and Wolverine, and they're just, fighting Sentinels. Oh, I'm sorry. They live in a Sentinel. I don't know what's going on, Richard. Oh, enough. Go on if you have more to say about the X-Men.
Not. It's not my generation's X-Men. Let's just put it that way.
And it's not a lot of people's X-Men, considering how low it sells compared to it did in its glory days. Speaking of titles that probably sold 10 times as much as the newest issue of X-Men, Comedy Comics number 34 with Margie and Nellie the Nurse. It's from 1946, and it has a 5-page Basil Wolverton story, as you can see from that very Basil Wolverton type character there with the bowler hat. Really sharp copy. I don't remember where I got it, but it is really sharp. And I'm clearing house. I'm threatening it all the time. I'm doing it. This week, we're going to have a live sale on Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you are at Bronze and Modern Gods. Stuff like this. Why do I have a copy of Comedy Comics 34? I don't know. Is Millie in it? No. Do I need to keep it? No. Out she goes. Going to be on the live sale. I'm waiting for your shocked reaction, Richard, and I'm not getting it.
There's one for this.
Appreciate it. God, I refuse. What a
my next book is Cloak and Dagger number 1.
Oh, Speak of the Devil.
Yeah, from the ongoing series. I picked this because, Cloak and Dagger is part of the new video game, the Marvel Rivals. It's actually a fun character. All the rest of them are just one guy or female character, and they're fighting the good fight or the bad fight, depending on the character. With Cloak and Dagger, appropriately, you switch between the two characters. So one moment you're firing light daggers as Dagger, and then she retreats into the cloak of Cloak, and he starts, with his attacks, and so you get to play a healer and damage dealer. It's an interesting combination of things, and it's pretty apropos to the character in the comics. So it's a lot of fun. So it made me think as I'm playing it, oh man, it's been a long time since I've actually read the Cloak and Dagger ongoing series. So I have the whole run here. This is also from 1984, right? 1985.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this is my original copy. It's red, although it's still in good condition. But Cloak and Dagger is an interesting series. If there's such tension between the two characters for a variety of different reasons. But if you're interested in a good story, they also made a TV show or TV series out of it, which sadly I have not watched. To be honest,
no one watched that.
Yeah,
no one watched that. No one watched Hellstorm. Remember that was a series on Hulu for a hot minute there.
Yeah.
More,
but we'll watch 90 day inmates or whatever the reality show happens to be this week.
90 Day Fiance.
Yeah.
Combat Kelly number 8. Ready? Aim. Fire. Kill all those people.
That is definitely a piece tied to the period. Death
to the Reds is the battle cry.
Yes. Oh, we live in a different world today.
Look at the condition of this book.
That is a brilliant red. I mean, it looks like right off the newsstand.
You got some spine stress around there, but again, why do I have a run of Combat Kelly? Why do I have Atlas War? Instagram live sale coming this week. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. Will I regret this? Is this going to be purge number 3?
I don't know. I think you are probably better prepared this time around than you were previously. I mean, you had a reason why you needed to sell.
Yeah, this time it is a beach in Tenerife. That's the reason. What's next?
My last book is
all right, Tinker Balls.
Fantastic Four number 269. I picked this cover mainly because even as teeny tiny as Reed Richards and She-Hulk are, you could tell this is a John Byrne cover from just those tiny little characters.
And not only that, he was a master at rubble.
Yes, very detailed, yes. So yeah, this is a book out of John Byrne's and Chris Claremont's Fantastic Four run.
No, Chris.
Yeah, wasn't it Chris Claremont?
No, that was John flying solo, writing and drawing and inking.
Oh, was he really? Okay.
Yes, sir. He would lose his mind if he heard you say that.
This is from my original collection. This is 1984, and it's in good shape because I wasn't really reading Fantastic Four. I was buying it, but I wasn't reading
gave
it.
up.
Yeah, I had given up.
I don't know if it was intentional, but the shadow of Terminus there with the rocks kind of looks like Ben's profile. Like
yes,
Ben Grimm. I don't know if it's intentional.
I bet you 100% it was intentional.
Well, we go from Byrne to one of Byrne's biggest influences, and that would be Steve Ditko and Blue Beetle number 4.
Oh, that's a cool cover.
Yes, the men of the mask. See, they all have that red mask on, and he's going to get poked. They're going to poke him with some spikes there. Why do I have a high grade run of Blue Beetle, Richard?
I don't know.
I look to you for answers, my friend.
Because you are a hoarder.
And I'm cleaning house. Blah, blah, blah. Live sale, blah, blah, blah. And that's it, right? You went first, correct?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Then I think it's time for us to remind everybody that you can support the show. This show right here that you love so much. Or if you hate it, support us anyway.
Support us out of anger.
Exactly. Spite support us for $2.99 a month. Less than a Starbucks. You get extra show and tell episodes on Wednesday. You get Thursday live streams. Oh man, I know I keep saying this, but last week's was the most Leonard Skinner-y off the rails.
Yeah.
If you were there, you also get shout outs. And I want to look right here. Lead Paint, your name is there. I know you were missing it there. It is there for sure, my friend. Some new members, there they go. And you also help Richard and I go to more shows and provide more coverage in 2025. You heard me, 2025, less than a month away. Just hit join on YouTube right here next to the subscribe button, or if you're on your favorite podcast platform, you just look in the description for a link as we pivot to viewer mail.
You've got mail.
That was me pivoting. Did you like that?
That was.
Thank you. What is your first piece of viewer mail, Richard?
My first piece is from our friend Anna John. When we're talking about Todd McFarlane, Todd McFarlane is as good as he ever was. Probably helps that he's not doing interiors all the time anymore. He has a Deadly Tales for the Gunslinger Spawn black and white cover coming out soon, and it's incredible. Todd is one of those unique content creators, who has turned his name and his likeness into its own property. I mean, he does CGC signings, which are always a success, and they always boost the value of your books. He does Spawn. He does figures for Spawn. and as creator, he gets the profits from all of that. He's just an industry all unto himself, and I respect that. I mean, that's I'm sure a lot of other content creators wish they had the level of success that Todd has created over the years. And yeah, he is still a great artist. He just does more than art anymore. He has a whole industry that he supports, and like I said, kudos to him.
He's got to make back that $3 million he spent on Mark McGuire's baseball.
Yeah, that was not a good purchase.
First of all, remember Mark McGuire?
I'm not a sports. The name is familiar. I'm not a sports guy, but I have at least heard of him.
If you know, you know out there. Steroids. My first piece of viewer mail is a twofer. First, we hear from Comic Padre. The episode last week where I had a focus on Marvel Westerns wasn't our most viewed episode, but I would say it got some of the most passionate comments and viewer mails from people. It's like Mystery Science Theater 3000. They had so many jokes that were so inside and they were not mass appeal, but they used to say, if the right people laugh, then we've done our job. That's how I feel about the Marvel Westerns podcast. Comic Padre writes, Jack Keller was not only the main interior artist for Kid Colt, like so many Marvel artists of the time, he moonlighted for Charlton, drawing the interiors for most of their hot rod and racing car comics. And that's followed up by a comment from Timothy Markin. I read that Jack Keller set a record for drawing one character the longest in Marvel history with his tenure on Kid Colt. I believe that is correct. He drew Kid Colt for, I want to say, almost 20 years straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive, from the 40s through the 60s. So good mails from both of you. Thank you. Richard,
Yeah.
what is your next piece of viewer mail?
My next piece is also from a YouTuber named Space Knight. And we're talking about comics, westerns genres. The genre comics all but died out by 1979. Anthology books had also died out that decade, and it's not a coincidence. Historically, the two are strongly tied together. Some of the character titles survived into the 80s, like Sergeant Rock, but their days were numbered. This also ties into television and movies, but comics were hit the hardest right after the pulp magazines.
Mm-hmm.
The 1970s was a big transition decade. All the ideas so popular in entertainment, not just comics, from the 1930s were vanishing. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The 70s was a transition from comics having a broader stroke. You had romance, you had westerns, you had sci-fi, you had things other than superheroes that were very popular. Crime was a very popular genre back in the day. And then the 70s hit, and a lot of those books lost support. The audience no longer supported those comics, and we saw the prevalence of the superhero comic books. With titles like X-Men, really just driving forward that superhero style of comic books. I remember the anthology books. I remember buying books that had 3 or 4 different stories that were completely unrelated, or had shared some theme, but were from different artists and different writers. We just don't really see that in the volume that we saw them in the past. To me, it's just progress, change in tastes from the 30s and 40s and that generation to our generation in the 70s and 80s. And we'll probably see another shift here in the future. So just following the trends of the community and the zeitgeist.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see someone on a forum or Reddit or something say, if Marvel or DC would just do a big anthology comic with, all the characters that can't support their own comic books, like you have Supergirl and Blackhawk and call it Adventure Comics, it would sell millions. Nope, nobody wants them. And they've tried and tried and tried. But along those lines, my next piece of viewer mail comes to us from Mando Foe, going back to the 70s and everyone's favorite topic, Jack Kirby. my favorite topic. John, I've been collecting comics since the mid-70s, and I can tell you I'm right there with you on Jack Kirby. I hated his work as a kid. His square fingers and giant frog mouths on his characters just really turned me off. Ribbit. I thought his art was weird and over the top. I was a much bigger fan of John Buscema, John Byrne, and John Romita. Now I see John Romita Jr. doing the same thing with very blocky characters and square fingers. As an adult, I appreciate what he was doing and admire his composition and detail, but I will always like the 3Js better. Yeah, I see that too with JRJR. I see his Superman from a couple of years ago. I see his Spider-Man, and I want to like it. I liked his Thor. His Thor from the late 90s, early 2000s was really good. Very Kirby influenced. That's where it kind of started. Then he's Eternals. He did his Eternals, kind of the same thing. But now he's really gone almost like Frank Miller crazy with the expressionism. What do you think?
You know what? I have not seen anything JRJR has done recently. I'll have to check it out. But Kirby's classic. I mean, his art style defined a generation of comics, and it's hard to get away from that. And he has influenced artists throughout the years. So I'm not surprised that JRJR is doing an homage to Kirby's style.
I'm definitely biased. I would say Kirby inspired 3 generations of artists in the 40s with his superhero work and in his war work, and the 50s with his romance work, and in the 60s with his Marvel superheroes work. I won't say in the 70s with his Commandy and Eternals work, but some people like me were inspired then. Go ahead. What's your next piece of viewer?
I like him.
Oh, go ahead.
Cool.
Yeah.
My next piece is from a viewer named Xena Luck. Sad to say, Westerns will have no audience. Today's kids don't play cowboys and indigenous people kind anymore. Yeah, but it's very true. The sensibilities of the modern comic book reader are different than they were in the 1950s. 1950s, you had coonskin caps, and everybody had a pellet gun, and you went outside and you played cowboys and Indians, and that was an acceptable and preferred way to pass time as a kid in those days. We're more sensitive now to labels we assign to people, and the kind of interaction that we want to have for people of different backgrounds. So playing cowboys and Indians to the same level and the same way that kids played in the 50s it just won't happen anymore. And if that's the basis of attraction to the cowboy stories, being attracted to that style of character, we just won't see Westerns of that type be popular again. But there's still Western stories that can be told, and characters that can be likable. And I don't say we will never have a Western story, a story from that particular era. It's just difficult, if not impossible, to have the same kind of good guy, bad guy story that we had in the 50s and early 60s.
So you're saying my Vertigo relaunch of Scalp Hunter, where he's against the white colonialists, is doomed to failure?
Unfortunately.
Even if it's ultra violent?
Who knows? It could be like Springtime for Hitler from the producers. It could, everybody could predict it to be a flop.
Imagine a relaunch Scalp Hunter with, him as, the spirit of vengeance for the Native Americans. Come on. Mark Wild wrote us. Okay. Here's the email. Hi, Mark. Gentlemen, the last several episodes, you guys have been talking about the nostalgia for Saturday morning cartoons and how it shaped your childhood. Then John got issue number 1 of the Wacky Racers, and it all just came to fruition. I'd gone to a store called Ollie's Discount Outlet, which is the Big Lots type of store that carries a bunch of closeout merchandise. And what would I find on the end cap near the toys? The Dick Dastardly and Muttley race car from the show as a model you can build and play with.
Oh,
Once
man.
I saw that, I knew you guys each had to have one since you didn't get the toy in your cereal box. John, you can build yours and display it with your issue number 1 if you choose. Richard, you can tie a string to yours and let Tinkerballs chase it. Either way, I just had to share this unique find as it again defines our childhood. And plus, it's really cool to see something like this out in the wild. No pun intended, Mark Wild. Enjoy and thanks for all the fantastic shows. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Richard, we each got a Wacky Racer.
That's so kind. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is, oh my goodness. The image of that just brings back so many pleasant memories.
Poor kid, big sticker on his mug. There we go.
Wow, thank you so much. I am really surprised you found this in today's retail store.
Well, first of all, I'm surprised somebody remade these. You know,
Right.
it's a reissue and must not have sold. People again, it's kind of why I'm selling some of these books. What does Wacky Races mean in 15 years?
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
But yeah, it goes back to Westerns and war books. We like them. What is it going to mean? And what are comic books going to mean in 20 years?
Yeah.
What are comic books going to mean in 25-year rule? Now, that is the counter argument to what I'm saying. 25 years is when nostalgia kicks in. So if you're buying comic books now and you're in your early 20s, you turn 45, you're going to want to go get books like that horrible X-Men run that's happening right now because you grew up with it and it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, people still, people collect baseball cards, sports cards, and
Do
have
they?
done so. Yeah, they still do. As a matter of fact, breaking packs is
Yeah.
a huge thing that people still do.
Mhm.
And I see collections and people who want to relive their childhood, or in some case, want to make a profit. I think comic book collecting is here to stay, but I think it's going to be a little bit more based in reality than some of the prices we've seen in the past.
Well, if the 25-year rule is a true one, then this is the year for the revival of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is Buffy the Vampire Slayer annual number 1 from Dark Horse 1999, the one and only annual for the Dark Horse comic book adaptation of the TV show adaptation of the movie.
That's true. I
It's
forgot
true.
it's the movie. Yeah.
Pee Wee Herman. I mean, Paul Rubens. Sorry. This long running series ran for 63 issues between 98 and 2003. Did you know it ran that long?
I did not.
Most of the covers, if not all of them, I think, had variants. There was one regular cover that was drawn or painted, and then another photo cover. So there are two, collect them all, kids, for each issue. There was also an Angel spin-off comic book series from this. And I pointed this out because it's a good example of a book that was popular then. It had a big audience, and now it just sort of faded away after the show stops running. Is this what's going to happen with Walking Dead?
Good question. I remember the show. The show was really, really popular back in the day. It had its ups and downs. I watched the entire thing. Some seasons were really, really dark, and they lost, I believe, lost audience, and they tried to correct. And then they had the series finale. That was it.
Was it UPN or the WB?
It was a WB, I believe.
WB with Michigan J. Frog. Hello, my baby. Hello.
But it was a good show. I mean, it was the actors did a great job. You kind of got to know them over the years, and I was sad to see the show end. But the comic, like you say, once the show ended, there wasn't a whole lot of um, continuation of that universe besides the Angel spinoff. So you really kind of lost access to new material, and I think that really hurt the series to continue.
Do you guys collect Buffy? Does anyone collect Buffy? Have you had horror stories of having a whole run and having it sit in your collection and not know what to do with it? Let us know in the comments. If you really want a copy of Buffy Annual #1, $2 to $5 on eBay. Go forth and purchase. Underrated books of the week. Richard, you are up.
Yeah, my pick this week is a comic called Kerpow with an exclamation point by Scout Comics, and it's from this year. It's an interesting story. It's sort of a what if alternate universe kind of thing where imagine Batman and Robin are out crime fighting, and some thug actually manages to kill Batman with a bullet, I don't know, to the face, or any place that's not protected that Batman happens to have. He kills Batman and kills Robin, and that bad guy, his son, saw the whole thing. The bad guy gets propelled in, the criminal underworld because he managed to end that super, vigilante's career. And what happens? What happens to that kid whose father now is a crime kingpin? He gets hurt, and then all of a sudden he starts seeing his name is Starling instead of Robin. The sidekick for Midnight, who was the name of the Batman-ish character. It's an interesting story, and it develops in a way that I've never seen people look at the whole Batman mythos. It's up to 3 issues out right now. You can pick it up from Scout Comics. Scout's is something that we don't talk about a lot. It's one of the newer publishing houses out there. They've got a huge collection of titles that they support, and they also have digital comic sales if you don't want physical comics. But yeah, check out Scout Comics. I'm going to try to feature some more of their books as I find them interesting here in underrated section.
Scout has had a few interesting things. I'm looking through them now. There was one, Stabbity Bunny.
Yeah, I love that.
I just like the name.
Yeah, the name is awesome.
The Dusk. There's some interesting things that they've done. Eternus, probably one that we're most familiar with. But yeah, good stuff from Scout. They just do not get enough press, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
My underrated book of the week goes way back to 1965 because I'm stuck in the past. It is Marvel Collector's Item Classics #1.
Beautiful. Love that book.
Look at that purple, huh?
Yeah.
This reprints is the second Marvel reprint title after Marvel Tales. The reason why Marvel did these is their early books from 61 to 63 had such low print runs, and they really kind of exploded in 1963 and 64. People discovered them, and they wanted back issues, and Marvel reprinted them for people to catch up. This reprints Fantastic Four #2, Amazing Spider-Man #3, Tales to Astonish 35, and a Tales of Asgard story from Journey into Mystery. It was a way for people to read these books that they had missed. And both reprint titles did so well, they became ongoing series. And then they launched a third one, Marvel Superheroes, in 1966, that reprinted Daredevil and a few other things. So Marvel Collector's Item Classics, just a really tough square-bound book, reprint book, purple cover, perfect storm of things that make a high-grade copy very tough to come across. I love this one. You're not getting this one. This is not being for sale on the live site. But
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a 9.4 sold for $660 in September of 2023. So what were you going to say?
I love that series. I love, if you want to read a fantastic single digit Fantastic Four book or Spider-Man book, printed on the same kind of paper, the same kind of ink, with the same comic book smell, and not spend a fortune on it. The Marvel's collectors and the collectors classics are the best way of doing that.
Yeah, ended up becoming Marvel's greatest comics and just being 100% devoted to Fantastic Four reprints, as all these titles got their own reprint titles as they went on. You know, they got so popular. Spider-Man took over Marvel Tales. So just a series that's kind of forgotten in the midst of time. That's how you pronounce mists, right?
That's exactly how you do it.
All right. Hey, we will catch you members on Wednesday and Thursday. Everybody else, we will see you next week. Have a great one.
Everybody stay safe.